In the beginning, Filipinos lived according to 3 core values: kapwa, or equalness; bayanihan, togetherness; and kabutihang loob, kindness. Together, these 3 things led our ancestors to greatness. They're what makes us truly beautiful, and they're found at the heart of who we are as a people. They're why our families in those days always had an abundance of food, and why our women carried high places in our communities. They're why our leaders were expected to rule fairly, and why our guests would often feel so welcomed that they would sometimes just stay and live out the rest of their lives in our islands. Because our way was to care, to share, and to love. But today, the Philippines isn't quite the same as it once was. Other values seem to have taken root in the lives of some of our people, values that are very different from the ones we held before. So where did these new ways of living come from? How did we go from this to this? Why has the Philippines become like this today? Well, like always, we can follow the story of our past for answers. Let's begin in the 16th century, when travelers from a distant land came to our shores to challenge our ways forever. At first, we showed these guests great hospitality, no different from the way that we would treat anyone who was lost or in need. We were even quick to blend parts of their culture and accept them as our own. We treated them as kapwa, as equals. But when these travelers looked back at us, what they saw were people who were less than them. They decided that we needed to be taught their own way of living, a way that, if rejected, would then be enforced. And although we did our best to defend ourselves, we were pitted against each other, allowing them to take over our lands. This is how the Philippines became part of the Spanish Empire. The travelers made themselves the masters of our people, who were made to toil and labor against their will. These Spaniards took our rules, our leaders, even our last names, and replaced them with their own. They forced us to see the world through their way, where we were seen not as equals, but as less than them. Less in greatness, less in beauty, and less in value. They taught us a twisted way of thinking called colonial mentality. But Spain wasn't the only foreign power interested in controlling us, for the United States also had their time to rule our people next. The Americans bought us from the Spaniards in a secret deal that no Filipino got to be a part of. And just like that, we were handed over from one master to another. Once again, we tried our best to fight back in a conflict known as the Philippine-American War. But it was a hopeless battle that ended in defeat. And just like the Spanish, the Americans had their own way that they wanted to teach our people. This time, it was about putting oneself first instead of the needs of the community. It was a Western way of thinking, where one's own success is more important than the bayanihan spirit of succeeding together. So instead of doing things as we, our people began to live for me. By World War II, our treasure of kabutihang loob was challenged once again when the Japanese invasion of our country made our people go against each other. Brother fought against brother. Friends became enemies, and entire families and communities were destroyed. By 1946, when we finally gained our independence, the colonial periods of Spain, America, and Japan had already done its damage to our country. And though equalness, togetherness, and kindness endure, so do the twisted ways of our old masters that prevent our people's values from overflowing with the abundance that it once did. So why is the Philippines the way it is today? Because after 500 years of being told by someone else how we should treat each other, we struggle with our identity. We question what makes us beautiful, and our greatness stunted.